Hi guys, Peter here from Stream at Sea, and today I'm going to show you a fly that I've been catching quite a few largemouth yellowfish on. It's been a bit of a secret for a while, but now I think it's at a stage where I would like to share it, and please go and play around with it and try it on the water. Originally, the design came more from a kind of like a woolly bugger style fly. What I wanted to create though, there's a lot of problems normally with woolly bugger type flies. Often the marabou would try and get trapped around the hook bend. The thing is, you also don't have a lot of shape to the fly. So you can see this has got like a marabou wing instead of a tail. The wing gives it a bit of a nice shape. The tail can be long, is nyat, which is quite a long material, but everything is nice and soft. So you can see the most important thing with a largie fly, in my opinion, is it needs to be soft. The big reason for that is they often will grab your fly from behind and they'll attack it straight from behind. So everything needs to be soft and collapse. A big feature of this fly is the circle hook. Now the theory behind it is on many occasions when I fish this fly, I noticed you feel multiple bites before you actually hook the fish. My theory is they can't really feel the hook pricking them, so they keep on attacking, and then eventually, when they get the right angle, they'll feel the hook prick, turn, and then it will hit into the corner of the mouth. And that's like the best hook set that you can get. So the other reason for this fly hook, with this hook kind of style design, it's called a Mutsu. A lot of the bait, a Mutsu circle hook. Now, if you can imagine this fly bouncing around the bottom, you can see the hook points far from the rock. Then, if the rock surface is there and this is scraping like this, you can slowly retrieve this fly along the bottom, and it's not going to damage the hook point. And it's also not going to get stuck. And the nice thing is now there's no weed guards, there's nothing that can get in the way. And when the fish eats this, it feels natural, it's soft, there's nothing that's pricking them. Often you're fishing this fly, very short little stabs, like short little retrieves, or a very long draw. And that will also enable you to stay in contact with the fly and basically feel softer takes, and they're so soft you don't really can even comprehend how soft large you can take the fly sometimes. We're just going to go through a few elements. There's basically, you've got a double tail. You start off with a short little bit of bucktail. Bucktail's a little bit stiffer. That will allow all your soft materials to stay away from the hook bend, but it's still soft enough that it doesn't give a weird hard element in your fly that feels unnatural. Then your next tail is a very long nyat tail. Then we incorporate 2 levels of flash. So this long head holographic type chenille, you can see all that is basically some flash that's strung up, What's nice about this is it's got a little subtle bit of UV and gold flash in it. So the UV is very visible in like dirty water. So it gives you like quite a nice extra bit of visibility. I don't like to put a lot of it in. You can see the flies has got like very soft elements of it. Then the crystal type chenille, you know, it's got a bit of a, this is kind of like a golden olive type color. But you can see it's not as like flashy as UV, but it still gives you a nice bit of a belly. Now, I'm pretty convinced in a lot of the dirtier water places where you get largies, a food source that stands out is the large platanna tadpoles. They do get about this size, but the biggest feature of them is a shiny belly. Their eyes aren't very prominent, so it's not very important. So what you need is movement, which you'll get mostly from the Marabou wing and the bulkhead. The bulkhead will push a lot of water, but it will actually allow the fly to swim in the currents. It will push it from side to side. The wing will actually help with that because it gives a lot of turbulence coming off this wing. So it's got that hydrodynamic effect. So in front of this chenille, we've basically placed some Marabou, 2 feathers on each side, with the concave side within the fly. We've also added like some rubber legs for a little bit of color. This does light up UV light, and then we basically finish off the fly with quite a nice brush. This brush is actually quite nice because it's got a bit of blue flash, and that stands out heavily in darker water. It's got a bit of an orange thread as well. Just gives you a bit of a subtle target point there in the dirty water. So those elements together gives this fly quite a nice swimming action. We've got a size 1 hook and a formal tungsten bead. I've pre-added it by crushing the barb and then just sliding it on. It's a good mention, just find beads that fit these hooks quite easily. These days you do get bigger beads as well, like 5mm beads. Sometimes they've got bigger holes, so that might actually be a better option. What we're going to do next is add some extra lead wire. Just add some extra weight to the fly. Okay, so I'm just going to add, it's probably like a 0.5mm lead wire, but you can play around with weighting. All depends on current and depth, and also generally this is fished with an 18-pound feeder maximum, and that does affect your sink rate. Probably going to aim close to the barb of the fly. I've got somewhere there. I'm just going to secure the lead wire by just touching with some super glue. I'm going to use a fairly thin thread, 25 denier. You can use thicker thread, but then you'll have to be a bit more mindful about all your wraps. I'm just going to start with quite a short piece. Okay, so I'm just going to secure the lead further by building a bit of a thread dam behind the lead. Getting rid of the tag there. And then I'll just do a couple of wraps just to secure the lead. And then just end it at the back. What we're going to do next is, this is quite a nice little trick. We're just going to use, just like standard bucktail, I'm just going to grab a little bit of some of the shorter hair here. Not a lot, maybe it's like maybe like 1/2 centimeter. That. It doesn't have to be very long. Just going to stack those. Okay. The purpose of this is purely just to avoid any materials wrapping around your hook point, and that will just give the other materials a bit of stiffness. So I'm just going to add about maybe a little bit longer than the hook shank. The hook shank, you can see, is quite short. Okay, so I'm just going to measure, cut, pinch wrap. You can like spin, cut into the little head there, give it a few wraps, come around, secure it there. You'll see you only need a few wraps then to actually secure it. Just trimming away some of the waste. Okay, so next what we're going to do is I'm going to tie in a tail of nyat. So nyat's like a type of goat hair, and you can see it's quite long. So it's a lot thinner than bucktail, so it's got a lot more movement. We're going to go pretty long on this material. Because it's soft, even if the fish grabs it, the whole thing will just collapse. So that amount's probably more than enough. You can just strip out some of that under fur. Then just going to pinch it again. Give it 1 or 2 turns. And then what I'm going to do, I'll fold that like back. That will give us a little bit of extra shape to the fly. So I'm going to kind of like push it down like that. And then just build some thread in front of it. And then just tie it in. Okay. So that kind of like wedges the tail in between the bucktail and that butt section. We'll just touch that with a bit of super glue. Okay. Let's give it a second to set there. Next material, this is a long type holographic material. I'm just going to snip off a little section here, tie it in. Now, with this stuff, you don't have a lot, you have to do a lot of wraps. It's purely just going to add some little bit of flash and fly. Just going to counter wrap it, stroke the materials back. Doesn't have to be too neat or tidy because it's going to be pushed back by other materials. Oh yeah, 2.5 wraps. It's more than enough. Okay, pinch it in. Just like a few turns there, and you just snip it away. The next material we're going to use will be a crystal chenille. This has got a bit longer fibers, probably like 1.5 centimeter. You can like play around with this kind of material because this will essentially build both the head and the body of the fly. So I'm gonna show you an interesting technique that you can use with any type of chenille. First you tie in the one side, secure that. Then take the other side. You can strip away some of the fibers just to secure it easier. Okay. Let's trim away some of that waste. Okay, so now essentially you've got a big loop that will be spun. So take your weighted spinner, you just like wind it up a little bit. So what this does is it's going to brush out the fibers while we spin. Now you're starting to get quite a nice thick, almost like a brush. So what this does is you don't also need to do a lot of wraps. So you'll stroke a lot of the fibers, then just more to the one side, and then just wrap one. Probably only going to do 2 wraps. You have to come quite high with the thread just to secure it. Just do a couple of securing turns there. Cut it off. You just like clean this up a little bit before we go to the next steps. The next steps is going to be, we're going to add some rubber legs. I chose a nice UV orange type material. I'm basically just going to use one rubber leg, and I'll just basically catch it in like that, and then I'll just pull that over to the other side. You can always trim that later on, but it looks like it's a good length. Okay, so next I'll grab some standard Marabou. This is like some cheap strung Marabou. Okay, so I'm just going to look for a feather that's got nice fluffy material. You're going to put 2 feathers in. The one is going to be basically take the concave side of the feather, and it's going to be inwards. You leave in the stem. The reason for that is it will give you some rigidity, and it will also help give some like the swimming action of the fly, and it also helps to keep any materials from wrapping around the hook. Okay, so this wing can be about 2/3 of maybe the tail length. It's not super important like the length, but it will basically give you a bit of a nice taper shape if you go about 2/3. Okay, so that will give you like a wing like that. Then we'll find a similar feather. Like that will give you quite a nice shape like that. And then together it almost gives that kind of like look and feel of a zonker strip without the weight of a zonker strip. That's like the disadvantage of using the zonker strip and flies. Okay. Tie that in. But now we need to build a nice little head that will push water. Okay, so you can like play around with types of, these days you get a lot of types of brushes. It needs to have a bit of stiffness in it, so you'll see this specific brush has got like nice and stiff fibers. It's roughly 1 centimeter on each side. Brush in. Okay, I'm going to tie this off now. So I'm going to switch to the orange colored thread for a bit of a hotspot. And then I'm just going to secure the orange thread there. Let's come back a little bit. Okay. Okay, so now we're just going to slowly wrap this brush. One wrap. Maybe like one more. This is probably the most tricky part of the fly, is to not overdo the head. We're going to do half of a wrap. Tie it in. And pull it a bit tighter there. Okay, now I'm just going to do a couple of wraps there. Okay. I'm going to use an old scissor to get rid of the brush. Okay, we'll clean up this a little bit now. This also pushes the brush back a little bit. Okay, and then we'll do just like a whip finish. Add some super glue before we do the whip finish. 1, 2, and let's add another one for extra safety. Okay. I wouldn't really actually trim this fly any further. You could maybe take some materials here off the bottom, but it won't really do anything. Just brush on the materials a bit loose. You can see that will already give you quite a nice little profile.
Wow.